All right, today we're diving into one of the most dramatic origin stories ever told. We're talking about the story of Moses, a man whose life, right from the very beginning, was wrapped in secrecy, danger, and defined by a truly impossible choice. You know, it's a classic question, right? We see it in countless stories and myths. What's that one single spark that just sets an extraordinary life in motion? Is it some grand prophecy, a divine calling, or maybe something else entirely? Well, for Moses, the answer isn't about glory or some destiny foretold. No, his journey begins with a mother's desperate, last-ditch effort to save her child from certain death. So let's set the scene, because it is grim. A man and a woman from the house of Levi have a baby boy. The problem, a royal decree says that every single Hebrew baby boy is condemned to die. For 3 months, they manage to hide him, but they just know their time is running out. So what does his mother do? I mean, look at this. This isn't just giving up. This is an incredible act of ingenuity and hope. She weaves a little ark, a tiny boat out of reeds. Then she carefully waterproofs it with pitch. She places her son inside and sets him adrift. But not in the main current. No, she places him right at the edge of the river, among the reeds. It's a massive risk, but it's a calculated one. And he wasn't totally alone out there. His sister, she stood back, watching from a distance, like a silent guardian, just waiting to see what would happen. And believe me, this small detail turns out to be absolutely crucial to the whole story. Okay, so this is the moment where fates, or, maybe something bigger, steps in. That desperate gamble in the river is about to pay off in a way that nobody, and I mean nobody, could have ever predicted. So who finds him? Of all the people in Egypt, it's the daughter of the Pharaoh himself. The daughter of the man who ordered all the Hebrew babies to be killed. She spots the basket, has it brought to her, and when she opens it, the baby's crying. And here's the thing, she knows exactly who he is. She says it right out loud. This is one of the Hebrews' children. But her first reaction isn't to follow the law, it's compassion. That single act of defiance is about to change the course of history. And this is where his sister's quick thinking comes in. It's just brilliant. She steps out from her hiding spot and asks Pharaoh's daughter, "Hey, should I go find a Hebrew woman to nurse the baby for you?" The princess says yes, and who does the sister bring back? Their own mother. I mean, can you believe the twist? She is now being paid by the royal palace to raise her very own son in secret. It's incredible. So when the boy gets a little older, he's brought to the palace for good and officially becomes the son of Pharaoh's daughter. And she gives him his name, Moses. Why? She says, because I drew him out of the water. So his very name is a constant reminder of his wild rescue story and, maybe more importantly, his two identities. Okay, so years go by, Moses grows up as a prince of Egypt, but that knowledge of who he really is, well, it's always there, simmering right under the surface. This is the heart of his problem, right? He's living the life of an oppressor, but he belongs to the oppressed. And eventually that tension, it's just gotta blow. So as a grown man, Moses starts seeking out his roots. He actually goes to see the Hebrews, his brethren, and for the first time, he really confronts the brutal, ugly reality of their slavery. Just try to imagine the weight of that moment, seeing the suffering that your adoptive family is causing your birth people. And then he sees it, right in front of him, a moment of pure injustice, an Egyptian taskmaster beating a Hebrew slave. And in that instant, something inside Moses just snaps. He makes a choice. He looks around, sees no one's watching, and he kills the Egyptian and buries his body in the sand. This is way more than just an act of rage. It's a declaration of where his allegiance truly lies. But then, the next day, Moses tries to break up a fight between two Hebrews, and his whole identity crisis just comes crashing down on him. One of them throws this question right in his face. And here's the kicker. His big act of solidarity, it's met with total suspicion. His own people don't see him as a savior. They just see an Egyptian prince. And in that one sentence, they reveal his secret is out. In that one single moment, everything changes. He's been rejected by the very people he tried to defend, and now his crime is known to the people he betrayed. The life he had, the privilege, the safety of the palace, poof, it's all gone. He knows, right then and there, his time in Egypt is over. And yeah, he was right to be scared, Because when word gets back to Pharaoh, a death sentence is put on his head. The man who was once a prince of Egypt is now a fugitive, running for his life into the desert. His escape takes him all the way to the land of Midian. And there, at a well, he once again steps up to be a protector. He defends the 7 daughters of a local priest from some shepherds who are giving them trouble. This act of kindness gets him an invitation into their home. And just like that, he starts to build a totally new life, a simple life as a shepherd, a world away from the luxury of the palace he fled. So when his wife, Zipporah, has a son, Moses names him Gershom. And the reason he gives for the name, well, it just perfectly sums up his entire life. He says, "For I have been a stranger in a strange land." Think about it. He was a Hebrew in an Egyptian palace. Now he's an Egyptian prince in Midian. He has never, ever truly belonged anywhere. But here's the thing. While Moses is off building this new, quiet life as a husband and a father, the story kind of zooms back out. And we're reminded that his personal journey is just one piece of a much larger and much more painful story that's still unfolding back in Egypt. A lot of time passes. The Pharaoh that Moses ran from, he eventually dies. And you might think, for a second, okay, maybe this will bring a change. A new king, a new policy, maybe a tiny flicker of hope for the enslaved Hebrews. But no, that hope never comes. This system of oppression was way bigger than just one king. The bondage doesn't just continue, it actually gets worse. The people's sighing turns into a deep groan of pure, unrelenting agony under the weight of generations of slavery. And so they cried out. This isn't just a sigh anymore. This is a collective, desperate scream from an entire nation. The text tells us this cry was so powerful, it traveled beyond the borders of Egypt, beyond the sky. It was a cry that demanded to be heard. And this is the turning point. The cry is heard. But it's more than that. The text says God remembered a promise, a covenant made generations and generations ago with their ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Now, it's not that an all-knowing being literally forgot. It's more like the time was finally right. The suffering had reached its peak, and the moment for divine action based on that ancient promise had finally come. So this leaves us with this huge, hanging question. You've got a whole nation crying out for help. You've got a fugitive prince hiding in the desert. And you've got a divine promise that's just been pulled out of the dust of history. What on earth happens when those 3 forces finally collide?